Sustainability is a complex field and you need easy answers. Don't worry, there is a solution: greenwashing. Welcome to Follow the Sustainability Trends in Business. In this episode we will talk about greenwashing. Before we start, a word of warning. Do not try this at home or at work or anywhere else. It may be illegal, but if you do it, you won't be able to look at yourself in the mirror. With these warnings, let's start greenwashing. Welcome to the Greenwash channel. We provide quick solutions to difficult problems. And this is the small greenwash guide. What do you do when you have an old wall that has some cracks on it? It has some stains from the water that has leaked in. It may have some, this mold stuff on it. And you would need to sell the house. What do you do? Of course, you could take this difficult route of having a renovation, tearing down everything, basically the whole building, and building it on you. For what? Why? No sensible person would do that. What we do is that we paint it over. Easy solution, quick fix. And this is exactly the same thing that we can do with businesses. So when you get this pressure of getting this responsibility and sustainability and all that stuff, then just paint it green. Because all that matters is how it looks. Of course, painting the wall requires some skill. Greenwashing requires some skills. It's not difficult, but you don't want to be the one who gets caught or fails in greenwashing. So the paint must not come off the wall before you have sold the house. The first thing to remember is that responsibility, sustainability and all these fluffy and furry and soft words, they belong to marketing communications. It is their tool. Story wins. You have to attach to people's emotions. Let me give an example of it. If you have a vape company, a company manufacturing these e-cigarettes, then you might have a bit of a brand problem because there are some people who think that whatever you're doing is not that good. Well, one thing you can do is that you donate reflective vests to school kids to make their journey to the school much safer and nicer. Isn't that great? Because everyone loves kids. And there is an added bonus. The added bonus is that your logo is on the vests. And it travels wherever the kids travel, which means that your logo is seen where it makes the greatest impact. Isn't that great? And it's a great story. No deed is too small or too irrelevant. So if you think of good stories, don't worry about something you've done. It's so small. No, it's not small. If it's worth a story, we all are worth a story and everything is worth a story. So they can be communicated. Everything matters. One thing is company values. Sometimes we tend to think that what are these values? What are they for? But this is the answer. Company values are an excellent communication tool. You can always tailor your values to meet the need. If you can't figure out your own values, it's no problem because the internet is full of companies stating their values. You can be responsible, transparent, high integrity, easy to approach, friendly, responsible, sustainable, all that. Pick the ones you like most. Pick the ones that evoke most emotions. Another thing is that responsibility is responsibility whatever the reason is. I give you an example. you have a factory and then you have some new emission control rules. That's not good because you have to invest into some sort of pollution control equipment and that's expensive. But okay, you have to do it because otherwise the authorities are going to put you out of business. So you do it. But just don't say that we did it because we had to. That's not a good reason. You say that we installed this great new pollution control equipment which is going to reduce our emissions by 90-something% and we did it because we care for the environment. The air coming out of our smokestacks is, you know, it's cleaner than the forest air somewhere far away from our factory, and so on. So make it a great story. Then one thing you can utilize is third-party certifications, because there are always those people who tell you that, yeah, but you just say it, you don't sort of show it or prove it. But of course you can prove it. You have third parties who make these great certificates. The world is full of different research institutes that can create these certificates, multicolored paper, you know, these embossed features, it feels nice, it's a thick paper, maybe some golden foil there, and possibly a red seal. A seal of approval. So that's a third-party certificate. And of course, it may cost money, and if you don't have that money, you can always use stamps. And you can always make your own nice green stamp. Then it's certified by you. And look at this. This is a great example. This is packaging for a cable. Well, who cares about cables? But it's a special cable because it's no plastics. It's plastic free. Sounds like a great innovation. And there is a green stamp to verify that. Well, of course, if you zoom into that, you'll notice that the plastic free only applies to the packaging. But hey, no one really cares to read the fine print. So stories and words are wonderful. Adjectives are wonderful. When you talk about big or huge or small or tiny or negligible or whatever, they all have their own emotions. They attach to people's emotions. Numbers, on the other hand, are a bit more dangerous because they are not so emotional. I mean, if you think of saying that this is big or this is huge, or then you say 10,000. If you say that this is big, then you're always right. If you say that this is 10,000 and someone comes and says, no, it's only 5,000, then you are in a very difficult discussion where you need to have facts and maybe you don't have them. But if someone goes and says that, no, that is not big, you can always say that, hey, who are you to tell me that mine is not a big one? Right. So it's a relative thing. Sometimes you need to use numbers, sometimes they are useful, they are a double-edged sword, you can cut yourself with them, please cut someone else instead. You can use numbers, but if you use them, try to avoid numbers that can be verified or numbers that are obviously wrong. If they are slightly wrong or if there are different conflicting sources, that's okay, but they must not be blatantly wrong. And the usefulness of numbers is that one number lies more than 1,000 words. And you can always think that 92% of all percentages quoted are picked out of a hat. They're just made out of nowhere. Whenever you use numbers, avoid relevant comparisons. Well, this is another great example. This sign was in a hotel bathroom. If you read it, you notice that by not tossing your towel on the floor, not asking them to clean it, then you save 4 tons of detergent. Whoa, 4 tons of detergent, that's a lot. And thousands of liters of water, that must be a lot. Of course, saying that the savings would be around 0.25 grams of detergent per towel doesn't really sound good. Or that the carbon footprint impact of not tossing the towel on the floor would be worth spending a couple of seconds in the shower. Those would be sort of relevant comparisons which must be avoided. So 4 tons is just great. One way of making things much more approachable is tossing these official engineering, scientific, whatever SI units. So don't talk about tons, talk about elephants. I mean 4 tons, no emotions. An elephant, that's a huge thing, isn't it? Don't talk about thousands of liters, you can talk about Olympic swimming pools or whatever parliament houses. No one knows how big they are, and that's the point. And also, you can be creative. Please be creative. For example, money. Did you know that if you have 1 million euros in 5-cent coins, then that pile of coins would extend up to the stratosphere? That's a huge, huge, huge amount of money, isn't it? And emotional, because you start imagining that pile of coins. Well, this is another example of using large numbers without comparison. Of course, a dull text and no one reads it, but if someone reads it, it says that an airline purchases 750 tons of sustainable aviation fuel. That must be a good thing. I mean, 750 tons, that's a lot. And it also says that you can fly like 400 times between Helsinki and Stockholm with that. It's a lot. It's really a lot if you love flying between Helsinki and Stockholm. So it must be a green airline, that one. Of course, they could have said that it's 0.2% of their total fuel consumption, but wouldn't that spoil the party? Maybe they could have improved it by saying that it's worth driving, this amount of fuel is worth driving your diesel car 10,000 times from Helsinki to Lapland and back. You could spend literally your whole life driving from Helsinki to Lapland and back with that sustainable aviation fuel. It's a lot. Big numbers are always better than small numbers. If you say that this and that saves 4 tons of carbon emissions, who cares? 4 tons. That's like very little. But if you say that this saves 4,000 kilograms of carbon emissions, well, that's better. Or you can say that this will save 40,000 kilograms in 10 years. Even better, you could say that it's 4 million grams, or maybe you could say that it's 4,000 million milligrams. Millions, billions, trillions. No one knows how many zeros are there, and no one cares. They are just so lovely and huge. Of course, when you use numbers, they're like honey for nerds. You've got all these geeky people buzzing around, and these geeky people are a bit problematic. They have an obsession of objective truth or solid numbers. It's not good. Scientists are probably the worst, as they tend to muddle clear messages by saying that, yeah, possibly, or it's plausible that, most probably, and so on. That's not good communication. So keep geeks and scientists away from your communication. Who wouldn't love dreams? Green dreaming is a great thing. It's relaxing, it helps a lot. Dreams have no limits. And when you have dreams, believe your intuition. If you have a dream of something, it must be true because it comes out of your intuition. And if you have a dream, a nice, good green dream, do not spend your valuable time with fact-checking. There are though some best practices in green dreaming as well. One of them is that when you dream green dreams, dream about the distant future. Not about tomorrow, about something further away in the future. And distant, of course, it may mean next year, it may mean next century. It really depends on you and your time span. If you are in a job which you plan to leave in 2 years, then 3 years is distant future, because you can say that this will happen in 3 years, it's distant future. If it doesn't happen, if your dream doesn't come true, no one can blame you, because first, you are not there, and second, you can always say that it would have happened, but the execution was bad. My successors were just so poor in doing it. I would have done it. And the same goes on company level. Typical net zero statements, we are getting to net zero emissions by 2050. They are great because no one of us will be there by 2050. 2040 is quite okay unless you happen to be in a business which is a very long-term business. And when you make these projections, someone may ask, when are you going to reduce your emissions, for example? And then, of course, what you do, you draw a curve which goes pretty flat and then falls quickly, so that most of the reductions are towards the end of the period. And then there are these wisecracks who ask, why did you do that? Isn't that like hockey stick or something? Well, there are different answers, and there are, I think, two great answers. One of them is that it's exponential growth, or was it, going down, is it growth? Anyway, it's exponential growth, it's not linear, and we all know that exponential growth is something great. So it's an exponential growth thing. The progress cannot be seen in the beginning because it's so tiny. We are just building, the foundations for this, and it cannot be seen, but later on it will be seen and it will accelerate. It will become easier the more we reduce the emissions. And the second point here is that you can always say that the technology is not mature enough yet. It's developing, it's being developed during the next decade to be in a useful scale. And whatever it is, fusion power will solve our all energy problems, and we can capture the carbon from the atmosphere, carbon capture and storage. Hydrogen economy is a great thing, P2X, a lot of buzzwords, everything. You can always come up with something when you go far enough in future. One great opportunity, especially with emission reductions, is carbon credit market. Carbon credit means that someone says that we will reduce our emissions and you pay us so that we say that you actually reduced your emissions, basically. And this is great because if you have a business where you cannot really reduce the emissions, or you cannot explain how they will be reduced in the future, you can always say that we buy voluntary carbon credits. And there are a lot of great projects for this, especially in the global south, the poorer countries, where you can buy a lot of carbon credits and offset your emissions. And what could be better as a story? Because then the local people get jobs, they get money, they get shade from the trees that are being planted, and even fruit from the trees, and their life will turn to the better at the same time as you are using a couple of pennies for buying the credits. What could possibly go wrong with this kind of an idea? Of course, nothing happens by itself. And despite the clear principles of greenwashing, you can spoil it by bad organizational choices. They may throw the spanner in the works. When building organizations, there is one rule above everything regarding responsibility, sustainability, and all that stuff. Keep the silos intact. Make sure that the functions don't talk too much with each other. Of course, you may have a sustainability guy in the board of directors. It's great if they are quiet, happy one, who is happy to have a nice title, member of the board, and who doesn't, interfere with business. You may also, and sometimes you need to have some sort of a sustainability boss in your company, in your business, chief sustainability officer or something like that, and you need them to take care of the reporting. But if you have one, keep them away from the real work. Don't interrupt the really interesting and important things of your money-making machine. Of course, there is an alternative here. You can combine different functions. You can combine sustainability with marketing functions. That works pretty well usually because marketing people, as I said in the beginning, marketing communications is actually where this responsibility stuff is important and useful. So, marketing people understand what kind of questions they should ask and what kind of questions they should not ask or tell anything about. So, marketing, sustainability, that works well, pretty nice. And after all, remember that all this responsibility, sustainability stuff is not your core business. Your core business is making money, not being sustainable. So it's not your core business, so you can use consultants. Consultants are of great help with reporting, and they can help you craft a story. If you have consultants that ask silly questions, uncomfortable things, then you hire other consultants. You will find someone who speaks the same language with you. Well, it may cost some, but you will find. You can also get great help by using creative agencies. This is my favorite example, atmospheric.agency. They show a lot of great examples, use cases, how to do this. But look at this great slogan. The climate is changing. Businesses shouldn't have to. No need to change. Great. That is a message to my liking. So, as you see, greenwashing is not that difficult. It's even easy and it's even fun, I would say. It's like stealing a candy from a kid. And remember, today's money is all that matters. Future money is highly uncertain. We may all be dead by tomorrow. Don't worry, be happy. Happy greenwashing. Once again, don't do this at home or anywhere. A few words of thank you. The original idea for this little greenwash guide comes from Kaisa Kurittu, whose LinkedIn posting actually gave the basic ideas, and then this has been sort of bouncing around and evolving. Unfortunately, this isn't something that's getting outdated very soon. This is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.